A Cleveland Browns coach had a very out-of-touch analysis on Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. We talk about what that was ahead of Week 8. Also, Derrick Henry calls out an NBA star. All that and more coming up next here on this edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much, as always, for being with us today on this Purple Friday edition of the show, making us your first listen of the day and a part of your day in general. We're free and available for you all podcasting platforms, so video form on YouTube where you can like and subscribe, also in audio form where you can follow along and subscribe over there as well. 5 days a week of Ravens coverage and content, regardless of which way you prefer to watch or listen to the show. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code _LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Here with me, it is Sam Njoku of the Ravens Talk podcast again. Sam, we both thought a lot of points were going to be scored in that Tampa Ravens game, and of course, we certainly saw that. Not necessarily the way we anticipated. Ravens go down early. They storm back and dominate for really the rest of the game until the defense decides they don't want to play anymore, and then it becomes a game again. But Ravens 5-2, and after that 2-game losing streak to start the year, as we've kind of been talking about, I couldn't really envision a much better response from this team.
Yeah, this is really the John Harbaugh show. I mean, what a phenomenal job he's done to rally these guys and get them refocused and ready to go. 5 straight wins. That's a tall task in this league, and besides the Chiefs, who have found a way to continue to win despite their struggles on offense, I don't think there's a better team right now on that win column than the Baltimore Ravens in terms of just sheer dominance one way and also just resilience to get it done, because there have been a lot of close calls in this 5-game win streak with the Bengals and such. So good job by them, and let's hope they keep it going.
Yeah, and I think, with, again, like Dallas, Cincinnati, Tampa, like those games, the silver lining of the way that they ended was at least you pick up wins, and you're not kind of like that Las Vegas game that ended poorly and they lost. But at least in the games where you're not finishing recently, they're picking up wins. Obviously, I don't think it's sustainable the way they're finishing. They have to clean it up. But you get the wins. You're not putting yourself in a bad situation. You're keeping yourself in the hunt for the top seed in the AFC North. You're not necessarily doing yourself a disservice there. Now, the Ravens, Sam, have a big matchup in Week 8 against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland obviously just reeling right now, and Deshaun Watson goes down for the season. I know a lot of Ravens fans wanted to see Deshaun Watson as opposed to anybody else, because I think you knew what was going to happen with Deshaun Watson, but now it's the unknown with Jameis Winston, and it's going to be the Lamar Jackson versus Jameis Winston matchup. Of course, everybody thought that was going to be the case when the season started, right? That was the headline when this game was circled on the calendar. But the Browns are going to have the tough task, as every team has so far this season, of stopping Lamar Jackson. And Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz went up on the podium on Thursday and obviously did his press conference. And he was asked about Lamar. And when he was giving his analysis, scouting report, whatever you want to call it, he said, quote, "He's gone from a run-first quarterback to a pass-first quarterback that can make plays with his feet." And talked about how Lamar, the offense is spreading the ball around more. You really have to defend him for the full field, this, that, and the other. But him saying he's gone from a run-first quarterback to a pass-first quarterback that can make plays with his feet, I mean, that's got seemingly all Ravens fans up in arms right now. I mean, we're talking about a player that has always been able to throw the ball. This to me is he's never been a run-first quarterback. Rookie season, when he's thrown into the fire for Joe Flacco, he's essentially running a Joe Flacco offense that they're kind of patchworking together for him. Like, sure, he was thrown into the fire then, and that season, I'm sure he had more inclination. And okay, yeah, when there's something that breaks down, is he going to run? Is he going to pass? He also threw the ball well that season too. I mean, it wasn't necessarily what we're seeing now, but if you want, I'm not even counting the rookie season, because his first full year as a starter was 2019, and he led the league in passing touchdowns with 36. He only threw 6 interceptions. Oh, what run-first quarterback is throwing 36 touchdowns in his first season as a starter? He's never been a run-first quarterback, and I think that calling him a run-first quarterback and now he's developed into a pass-first quarterback, no, he's been a pass-first quarterback that has been able to make plays with his legs. That is what it is. He has relied on his legs more in seasons than in other seasons, but that doesn't mean in the seasons he was relying on his legs more, he wasn't still a pass-first quarterback.
Yeah, and that mentality is pretty much what a lot of these DCs had in terms of their analysis of Lamar Jackson. Even when you see it on film, how the opposing defenses try and attack Lamar Jackson, they're really worried about him running the football, at least in the early goings of his career, and even as close as last season, how they were attacking Lamar Jackson, daring him to fool him and beat them with his arm. And now you're seeing a quarterback who has shown on a consistent basis on primetime television that they can beat him with his arm. And so now the DCs are kind of telling on themselves when they say, well, now he's a pass-first quarterback. It wasn't that before. No. You just didn't respect him as a passer at first, even though there was tons of hints and clues to lead you to believe that he was a pass-first quarterback. Now that you have to account for it because he's killing these teams in national spotlight games, that's why he's talking like that. So I see why Ravens fans are upset and why they're up in arms, because this is just another example of a defensive coordinator or a league representative showing their true colors, that you didn't believe in Lamar Jackson and now he's letting you pay. So I get why Jim Schwartz said what he said. I'm sure it was a lapse of judgment in his mind. He was just pretty much saying, I have to account for this guy's arm because he's proven that it's not just his legs anymore. And he's finally catching up along with the rest of the league that Lamar Jackson's just a special quarterback.
Yeah, and I guess this is off topic and on topic at the same time.
Yeah.
But when we talk about Lamar and his improvements, I feel like what people sometimes classify that as is, oh, he couldn't do it before.
Right.
When in reality, that's not the situation. It's he could always do it. It's just he's getting better at doing it in every aspect, with his arm, with his legs. Sam, every quarterback that enters the NFL has work to do. There is no rookie quarterback that comes into the league and is a perfect player and just has no flaws they have to work out. Lamar came into the league as a raw player. A lot of other quarterbacks come into the league as a raw player, but Lamar's improved each and every season, but that doesn't mean he wasn't able to do some of the stuff before. He has literally shown it on tape. And I just feel like it's another one of these things where, like, okay, yes, he can do it, but we are seeing the best version of Lamar Jackson this season. And to your point, Logan Ryan ended up talking on CBS Sports, obviously former defensive back, and he said, being a defender playing against him in my career, every coach, every defender wants to keep him in the pocket. He's too special with his legs, but if he's operating in the pocket like this, you can't stop it. And so I take that a little differently. And I think what Logan Ryan there is saying is what you were kind of talking about, Sam. You have to be able, because he is so good in the pocket, but he's also so good making things happen and extending plays. If you let Lamar just have free reign of the entire field, he's going to pick you apart. Now, the problem is that over these past couple of seasons, and really over the course of most, if not all of his career, you keep him in the pocket, he's still going to tear you apart. So it's like this pick your poison type of thing where defenses have to take away one element. They have to. And they're choosing to take away the entire field, put him in the pocket, and live with the results. Well, the results have been Lamar's going to tear you apart, and it doesn't really matter because he's been doing this for a while, especially as a pocket passer, where I don't know where that narrative came from, but he's been doing that for a while and doing it really well.
Yeah, and I think the only way to stop any of these special quarterbacks, be it Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, or Joe Burrow, is to really get interior pressure. That's what made Aaron Donald so special, getting into the interior. So that's keeping him in the pocket in a way, but also getting to him for the sack. If your plan is to just contain him by letting him sit in the pocket, he's going to destroy you. If your plan is to get him outside the pocket, he's going to run away from you. So it's one of those things where you have to be almost perfect on defense to get it done. Very few teams have been able to do it. Definitely not happening this year for a lot of these teams. So I think Lamar Jackson is just special. I mean, watching him on film, especially these last two games, it's almost awe-inspiring. I think the best play I saw from the Monday Night Football game was him throwing that pass over the defender, over to Charlie Kolar, I believe, his hands in the corner of the sideline in the first quarter. That's just, he doesn't do that in his first year as a starter. Some of those throws he doesn't do that as early as last year. So I think he's just beginning to mature, beginning to improve as a passer. And when I say beginning, I mean continuing to improve as a passer. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes, the guy who's considered the greatest of all time. He came into the league kind of raw as well. He didn't really know how to read defenses. He was doing things with his arms that no one could do, obviously, but not being able to read defense is one of his nagging points. And now he's improved in that area. Now he's one of the greatest to ever do it. But same thing with Lamar. He's going to improve. He's going to get better. He's continuing to get better. And it's crazy to say, every year we say this is the best version of Lamar that we've seen. Next year is going to be more of the same. It's just unbelievable to watch him grow as a quarterback.
Every quarterback goes through a natural progression of improving, enhancing their skills, and getting better. And that's just what we're seeing with Lamar Jackson, including Sam. Now, if you want to stop Lamar Jackson, I would probably recommend against blitzing him. I don't think that's a very good idea. We know the stats. I'll read them off here. From that Tampa game on Monday night, Lamar was blitzed on 61.5% of his dropbacks. Obviously, this coming from Ben Solak, and he's citing next-gen stats. Third highest rate for Lamar in a game, regular or postseason of his career. Inverse the blitz, his stats, 11 for 15, 166 yards, 3 touchdowns, almost a perfect passer rating, 148.9 there. Sam, it feels like that Miami Dolphins Thursday night football game where it's just cover zero, cover zero, cover zero. That was that okay. Oh, Lamar can't beat the blitz. Lamar, if you want to stop him, you just have to blitz him and he's done. Well, we've come a long way from that, and Lamar Jackson is eating up the blitz right now.
Lazy narrative if you think that. Of course, in 2018, blitzing is going to stifle any rookie quarterback, but now go ahead and try and blitz him. You don't blitz Patrick Mahomes. You don't blitz Joe Burrow. You don't blitz Lamar Jackson. These quarterbacks are just too good at reading defenses. Todd Monken has done an amazing job of getting Lamar ready to read defenses and be able to change plays at the line of scrimmage prior to the snap. He is better than that than any quarterback, including Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion. He's just so good at deciphering where the blitz is coming from and being able to react. He's not just accepting the hits and trying to make something happen with his leg. He's ordering the line of scrimmage, the offensive line, to where the blitz is coming from, and he's being able to sit in the pocket and reap the benefits of his film study. It's really phenomenal to watch him do it, and expect more of the same. If you're a defense and trying to blitz, I know the Browns coming up blitz a lot. I would highly suggest moving away from that because Lamar Jackson's killing it.
He's doing incredible things that, we see Lamar do this on a weekly basis, obviously, Sam, because, we're watching, we're looking at this team, and it's just like he continues to one-up himself like every year, nearly almost every week in some cases, and we've seen that this season. A Jackson 5 on the docket for Lamar Jackson, and it is always so sweet when he's able to put together one of those performances. Coming up in the second part of the show, we'll be talking about Lamar's mate in the backfield, Derrick Henry, talking about him calling out an NBA star and just what he's been able to do this season in the Ravens backfield alongside Lamar. Stay tuned. Lots to get to here on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Use pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot on up to 100 times your cash. Earn your game all season long on PrizePicks. I love going on PrizePicks, seeing everything they have to offer. They always have something that I am interested in. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going to go off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. So for the Ravens and Browns game upcoming, maybe you want more on Lamar Jackson passing yards, more on Derrick Henry rushing yards. Those seem pretty good to me over on PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. And the show is sponsored by Pre-Alcohol by Zbiotics. Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink by Zbiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. And this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how to use it. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. Zbiotics is back with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. We are back. Our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher and Sam Njoku still talking with you on this Purple Friday edition of the show. Again, appreciate everybody for being here today and making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Follow along in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Now, Sam, off the bat, I want to ask you this about Derrick Henry. I think a lot of people, when he was signed, there was some mixed feelings, mixed results. about, okay, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? This has come along so much more quickly than I expected it to, mainly because, look, Derrick Henry is a beast, and that was never a question for me, but this offensive line has really stepped up and opening up holes for him. Did you expect this much success this early in the season from Derrick Henry, or did you expect it to be more of a feeling out process and maybe by like early November, mid-November, we'd be at the point we are now?
I expected it immediately. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't want to
All right.
pat myself on the back, but I knew as soon as the Ravens even tried to trade for him last season, I said, this is a trade that should not happen. The league needs to step in and stop this, because giving Derrick Henry a chance to be in an offense where he's not the focal point, where defensive coordinators have to account for anyone else, is just too enticing of a proposition for the Ravens to pass up, and it's too dangerous for the league to let happen. Lo and behold, they let it happen. It happened, and no one really talked about it. It was, Derrick Henry signed with the Ravens. What can this mean? And they kind of moved on. It should have been a topic of discussion for the entirety of the offseason. It's almost ridiculous, and I think that this is only even going to get worse for teams as they decide that, okay, Lamar Jackson can do it with his arm. We can't leave 8 guys in the box no more. Let's switch it to 7. And now you're just getting to do whatever you want. And that's where the Ravens are trying to get to on offense. And John Harbaugh kind of alluded to that when they talked about Henry being not that 30 carry back, giving him the option. Defensive coordinators are going to start to struggle to find out how to stop this team. And that's only going to lead to more opportunities for Derrick Henry. So to answer your question, yes, I thought it was coming. I knew it was going to happen immediately. And I'm very excited that it's continuing to happen the way I envisioned.
All right, I might need some lotto numbers now, Sam. if you're calling that, I might need you to give me the lotto numbers after we're done here, because yeah, man. And look, for those who have tuned in to the Friday episodes here on Locked On Ravens and who have tuned into Sam's work, Sam has been on the money. Sam's been on the money calling these games, figuring out how they're going to go. So that's why I really need the lotto numbers. I think you might be onto something. But yeah, appreciate it. So we'll get that figured out after we're done here. We'll do it off the air. But all right, Derrick Henry. I don't know if you saw the clip from the Minnesota sports world where Justin Jefferson, Anthony Edwards did a crossover, and they were talking, they were just chopping it up. And Justin Jefferson asked Anthony Edwards, because Anthony Edwards actually has a very big interest in football, and it's been very vocal and very clear. For those who don't know, he's the Minnesota Timberwolves star in the NBA. And Anthony Edwards got a little bold. Justin Jefferson was asking, all right, like, meet someone in the middle who, and he said, Derrick Henry. And Justin Jefferson's like, Derrick Henry? Like, what? Come on, man. And Anthony Edwards said, look, I'm not going to pop him, but I'm going to hit him, though. Like, I'll hit him, though. And so Derrick Henry was asked about what Anthony Edwards said. And Anthony Edwards might have some, he might have to show up at Owings Mills to try to back himself up, because Derrick Henry said, look, everybody's got an imagination. And so you're kind of like, oh. And Derrick Henry actually also said that he went on a podcast. I can't recall whose he said it was, but he said that, he wants to have a thing where for training camp, get some of these NBA players out there, or, get the pads on and like have a little thing that goes on. And Anthony Edwards is a tall dude, though. Like, Anthony's a tall guy. Yeah. But I thought it was really funny because, out of all the running backs that Anthony Edwards could have picked, he went straight in. Look, Anthony Edwards is a confident dude. If you watched him play, he's a confident guy. Lived up to that by picking out of everybody Derrick Henry.
Yeah, there's no way. I think out of all the running backs in the world, you picked the biggest, fastest, strongest running back there is. I've been around players for many years, and I've seen them train in the offseason, and I see what they go through. And I watched the clip, and I saw him mention that if he was lifting weights, he would get to the size of Derrick Henry. No, you're either born like that or you're doing something extracurricular to get there. You do not get to the size of Derrick Henry by just simply lifting weights. You're just born like that, and you just lift weights to accentuate your stature. So there's no way that Anthony Edwards will have any shot at tackling Derrick Henry. There's no way that 99% of the linebackers in the league will have a shot at tackling Derrick Henry by themselves. It's just not going to happen. But it's fun to talk about, and I'm sure Derrick Henry got a chuckle out of it.
Yeah. For those who don't know, and I will make the admission now, I was not born like that. So that is why I'm not in the NFL. That is why I'm not doing what Derrick Henry's doing. But what he is doing, Sam, is incredible. Again, if the season ended today, definitely we'd have the MVP of the league and Lamar Jackson, and the Offensive Player of the Year and Derrick Henry both on the Ravens. And I like what you said, and I want to bring up that point a little bit more. One of the things you mentioned is that as the year goes on, it's just going to get worse and worse for defenses, man. Like, I'm 100% in agreement with you, because when the weather gets colder it gets harder and harder for guys to tackle these big bruisers who are just coming downhill with the speed Derrick Henry has. Again, one of the most common misconceptions about Derrick Henry is that, you look at the build, look at his body, you're just like, okay, this guy's just a slow bruising back. Like what? No, this guy goes 20 plus miles an hour consistently. And when he gets downhill, that's when he's the most dangerous, right? Because he picks up that speed and he's going 20 plus miles an hour, and he'll just, he'll lay that arm out. He'll give you the stiff arm. I think once we get to like December, real cold weather, smash mouth football, and we've seen teams do this, right? The Ravens had LaRon McClain. They would run him in cold weather, and it'd be tough to tackle him. I know that Ed Reed on the Manning cast on Monday night mentioned Brandon Jacobs, Eli Manning's former teammate over there in New York, and how he was that big bruising guy. And Ed Reed was bragging about how he just tackled Brandon Jacobs all the time. But it's the same concept of like, when it gets colder, it gets less and less likely the defenses want to stand in there for a full 60 minutes and try to tackle a guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Ravens fans, I had to bring it up, but think about the division around the playoffs when the Tennessee Titans came to Baltimore trying to tackle Derrick Henry. We made a big fuss about how the Ravens had a great run defense in these linebackers. It was a show of just Derrick Henry forcing you to try and tackle him, and sometimes those DBs are running away from the guy. I mean, it's very difficult to tackle in December. You're bruised. Your body is going through it. You've gone 17, 18 games, and you're in the postseason. You want to tackle that guy? It's not going to happen. It's going to be very difficult to do. So I think, to further my point, it's going to be very difficult to stop this offense later in the year as the years go by and as Lamar continues to show that he can get it done with his arm. Defenses are going to have to adjust. You heard the Browns DC talk about it. They're going to have to make adjustments. They cannot continue to let Lamar dice him up like that, especially in the red zone. Pick your poison. I mean, we talked about that's the theme this whole season. Pick your poison. I don't know who you pick, but whoever you don't pick, they're going to kill you.
Yeah, and I feel like with this running offense in particular, we know Derrick Henry is incredible. Justice Hill, to me, if Lamar didn't win MVP of the league, it'd be Justice Hill. All right, I'm just putting that out there right now. Justice Hill is my second pick for NFL MVPs. He's been so good for the Ravens. Obviously, I'm joking, but yeah, he has been like an X factor, underrated player for them. But now, Sam, we get word that Keaton Mitchell, and he's back at practice. He's doing his thing, and you talk about the speed compared to the power, and Derrick Henry again is a speed guy. But now that we're assuming he's back and he's going to be on the roster, they open up that 3-week practice window. What is kind of your perfect split in this Ravens running backfield when you talk about Henry, Hill, and Mitchell? How do you kind of want to see when the Ravens are, let's say, rolling? What's the perfect split for that backfield you would like?
I think I'd want to get Keaton Mitchell involved, but I don't know how his injury's holding up. All signs point to he's almost at full strength and ready to go. I think the Ravens are just trying to make sure he can take a hit, how he handles being in the cut motion and all that stuff. So they want to make sure that he's mentally okay as well as physical. But if he's anywhere close to the guy that averaged 8 yards a carry last season, then it's going to be a very, very tough nightmare for defensive coordinators to figure out. I would like to see Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell both in the backfield at the same time. That way, you're as a defensive coordinator, you're trying to decide, are you going to go heavy in the box and try and stop Derrick Henry, or are you going to go light with the extra DB to try and account for the speed that Keaton Mitchell brings, along with Lamar Jackson? So it's just another added element that this Ravens team adds to their wheelhouse and another nightmare scenario for these opposing DCs. So, man, I am salivating at the mouth just thinking about all the potential matchups, and I'm sure Todd Monken has used this opportunity during the offseason to kind of make some plays, some concept stuff, some trickery to get Keaton Mitchell involved, because that boy is fast. And if he gets around that corner with those guys loaded in the box, I saw the Buccaneers really keep their linebackers within the tackles of the offense. And if they need to do that, if they try and do that with Keaton Mitchell's speed, look out.
Yeah. Look, they had the Heisman package back in the day with RG3 and Lamar and Mark Ingram.
Yes.
You could call that the Henry, Mitchell, Lamar, the 20 package, guys that go 20 plus miles an hour on the field. So I'm loving that. I want to now, if they don't do it, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to be disappointed if they don't do it. They absolutely have to. So we'll see. Again, Keaton probably think is not going to play this week, obviously, but they'll ramp him up and hopefully get him going by the time that window expires. But coming up, the Ravens and Browns, big Week 8 matchup on the docket. We'll get into a preview of that game, players to watch, keys to victory, predictions, and a lot more. Stay tuned. Plenty to talk about on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you're going to start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You're started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So for the Ravens and Browns game, Ravens open up as 9.5-point favorites over on FanDuel. So if you like the Ravens as the road favorites, or if you like the Browns as the home underdogs, be sure to choose your side over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. We return. Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Sam Njoku still here with you on this Purple Friday edition of the show. Sam, let's start here. We know Deshaun Watson has just been a disaster, an absolute disaster in Cleveland. Do you feel more or less confident in the Browns beating the Ravens with Jameis Winston than you did Deshaun Watson?
I feel less confident, and that's literally only because Deshaun Watson was the worst quarterback starting in the National Football League. I mean, it cannot get any worse than Deshaun Watson, at least I'm assuming. That doesn't mean that I'm totally against the idea of the Ravens going in there and trouncing them with the Jameis Winston or DTR. I just think that as far as quarterback NFL level competition goes, he was at the bottom of the barrel. He was just not getting it done at QB, and it was very interesting to see the Browns continue to go with him despite the obvious lacking of talent that the QB position was bringing them. But that doesn't mean that, I expect Winston to light the world on fire. I just really expect Watson to be terrible anytime he enters the football field based on what we saw the first 7 games of the season.
Yeah, I think that was the known, right? I think with Jameis Winston, it's the unknown. With Deshaun Watson, it was the known. He was going to go out there. He was going to struggle. He was going to toss picks. He was going to, have all this bad happen to him. And, of course, now he's done for the season. So Jameis Winston comes in, and we saw the Browns really rally around one backup last year in Joe Flacco. And I know they're different players, right? I mean, Jameis, very high mistake player, also can kind of be a gunslinger and sling that thing around. So we'll see. But it's just a little less certain now what's going to happen. I feel like it was kind of written in stone, okay, there was ever a bounce back week, it was going to be against Deshaun Watson. Now it's hey, still bounce back against Jameis Winston. But, Jameis could go out there and just light up this secondary with the way that they're playing right now. But he could also throw 4 picks. So it's definitely either one of those worlds. But with all that being said, Sam, from a general perspective, again, this is the worst passing offense in the league. Obviously, that was before Deshaun Watson left, and now it's Jameis Winston. Their defense has been good, but not the Cleveland top 5, top 3 level defense that we've seen over the course of the last couple of years. How do you think Baltimore matches up with Cleveland from a general perspective?
I think the Ravens match up well. Now, you mentioned the defense hasn't played up to par. Their past defense has been, middle of the pack. They do have Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is a great player, defensive player of the year. He's that type of guy, and it's interesting. I'll be interested to see how the Browns attempt to attack Lamar Jackson using him. I've been waiting for teams to try and use their pass rushers, at least their elite pass rushers, the way the Raiders did in the past, the way the Chiefs did with Chris Jones. But there have been some teams attempting to mimic it, but never anyone duplicating it. So with the familiarity that the Browns have, I'll be interested to see how the Browns choose to attack the Ravens. On offense, it's just, they're terrible. They gave over the play calling duties to Dorsey. Stefanski let it up. So it'll be interesting to see how the Browns move on from that. They do have Jameis Winston. We know that he's turnover prone. I know you mentioned Joe Flacco, but I think they're 2 different quarterbacks. I know they're both gunslingers, but I think Joe Flacco is able to read defenses a little bit better if he's given time in the pocket. Joe Flacco has shown that he can be that type of guy. Winston really hasn't shown me that recently. I know he has the ability to carve up defenses, but I think that with the loss of Amari Cooper to the Bills, they only really have Jerry Jeudy. I think the defense will be playing a little more aggressive, something that I saw a little bit in Tampa. So it'll be up to the Ravens to make sure they don't have any blown coverages, miscommunication. 2 of the Buccaneers touchdowns came from literally being a team that didn't know what they were doing, who to cover and stuff like that. So I think if the Ravens stand pat, if I'm them, I'm playing man. I'm playing man coverage, beat us, beat our talent and see what happens. So I think the Ravens should take that approach. The Browns play the most man coverage in all of football. They play more man coverage than anybody. Last week, the Ravens played a team who played the most zone coverage in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I would not play man coverage against the Ravens. I would not do that. I don't know what the Browns' plans are heading into this. I think they run man about 42% of the time, which is pretty high in today's standards because of what quarterbacks can do. So they might have to go away from their wheelhouse and be a more zone-centric team, and that could cause some problems for them in the run game. So it's going to be very difficult for the Browns to get this done. I'm sorry to say, if you're a Browns fan, the Ravens are just too good and you really need to play this team a certain way. If they play the way they usually play, which means leaving guys in the box, blitzing, then maybe they have a chance, but we've seen that doesn't work. Play action is going to be a huge thing if the Browns go that route, and I expect Jim Schwartz to kind of tilt away from that side a little bit, but I don't know if there's any other way to beat them, especially with the roster that the Browns have currently.
Now I'm gonna say 2 words, and I want you to give your thoughts on if you think this is that or has the potential to be that in this game. The words trap game. Do you think that this is a potential trap game for the Ravens? Again, it's a team that just lost their starting quarterback, albeit I think the worst starting quarterback in the league so far this season, but they now have a new play caller. They now have a new quarterback. This is a team that, again, any division rival is, they're salivating to the mouth to beat a division rival and kind of put a little wrench in their season. Do you think that this has the potential, especially with some of the times we've seen the Ravens play down to opponents before? Could this be a possible trap game for this Ravens team?
If you asked me that 6 weeks ago, I would say yes. But mentally, I think this team turned the switch after that Raiders game, after that loss, when Lamar Jackson was very vocal about the Ravens needing to keep the foot on the gas, keep pressuring these defenses. I think the Ravens are going to play their game and dare you to stop them. I don't think they're going to play down to the competition. I think that aspect of this team, at least for this season, I'm almost confident that that's over with. I know sometimes John Harbaugh-led team can have those lapses, but I think this team is laser focused after losing to the Raiders and the Chiefs. I don't think it's going to be that game. I think if the Browns beat them, it's because the Browns got the better of them, and that just sounds ludicrous to say out loud. So I'm going to say I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Ravens do what they need to do, stay focused. Their defense definitely gave up some points at the end of that Bucs game to lead me to believe that they really wanted to have a bounce-back game. So I would say no. I understand the notion that the Ravens could possibly have a trap game, but I think that Raiders loss really got to them, and it made them turn the corner.
Yeah, I see. Someone asked Jim Schwartz if there was anything that the Ravens learned from that loss last year, and he's just like, I guess like the Ravens can figure that out. Like I don't know what the answer was supposed to be from him, but like that was one of those. The Browns were the only team last year that actually beat the Ravens because the Ravens beat themselves against the Colts, they beat themselves against the Steelers. And that Week 18 game, I'm not counting that game. So that was the game that Deshaun Watson had the best half he's probably ever going to have in a Cleveland Browns uniform. And they out-physical Baltimore. They wanted that more. So you can't have a repeat of that. You're going to have to want it. But, I mean, we can be honest about this, Sam. Lamar Jackson, he's been on a mission, and he has made it very clear that his mission is to win a Super Bowl with this Ravens team. And that means, like he said, taking it one game at a time. And that's what you have here. And that kind of leads great into keys to victory. So I'll say here, look, first of all, don't give Jameis any confidence. Like, I feel like if they lapse a little bit early, and look, the thing that gives me a little more confidence in this is we ended up seeing Baker Mayfield absolutely eviscerate this defense early last week. And look, there was a holding call that called back their second touchdown. They settled for a field goal, but don't let Jameis get comfortable. Make it uncomfortable for him. Force him into some bad throws early. Don't let him get confidence. Second one for me is the secondary bounce back. You mentioned it, Amari Cooper now in Buffalo, going to be relying on guys like Jerry Jeudy. You got a Cedric Tillman. Is Jamari Thrash going to be a player? So we'll see. And then finally, don't fall for that trap. Don't fall into it. To me, the Ravens have been that way before. I think it is a little different this year. Sam will agree with you on that. But at the end of the day, I think to me, this Ravens team has a different mindset. And even, week 2 was they had a different mindset than they have now, like you mentioned. So to me, I think those are my 3 keys. Is there anything else you're looking out for in this one?
No, you kind of said it perfectly. Definitely don't let Jameis get off to a fast start. That's numero uno. I know the Ravens kind of let that happen with the Buccaneers, but they kind of bounced back. I think this defense of the Browns is a little different. They probably feel confident after getting that win last year. So definitely get off to your fast start. You're on the road. Get it done. And make sure that this team is ready to go. I think the Ravens defense plays aggressive. I know there's a couple of guys that are banged up that may kind of force the Ravens to maybe play a little softer, but I don't want to see that. play aggressive. You're the best team in the league. Forget the records. Everybody knows it. Prove it on Sunday and get out of there.
Yep, 100%. And look, I think for this team, these games are so important. And I have, I don't know if I've ever talked about this with you, Sam, but 3 tiers of losses that can happen and 3 tiers of wins. The most important games are divisional games, AFC North games for the Ravens, because that counts against your conference record and your division record. That's huge for tiebreakers. Second most important is just regular conference games, right? Again, that counts against your conference record. That can make an impact when it comes to the actual seeding in the playoffs. And then finally, it's those NFC games. And like, I don't really have to worry. We don't have to worry about Lamar in the NFC with what he's been doing to them over the course of his career. But those are the games that if Lamar decides to lose to an NFC team again, like he did with Daniel Jones, still crazy.
Ridiculous.
I think that, look, we can let it slide a little bit because that does not count divisionally or conference-wise. Now, players to watch. This one, the first one, Sam, might come completely out of left field on this one. But I'm going Patrick Ricard as my first player to watch in this game. Now, let me tell you, Patrick Ricard had that drop. Remember, he had that drop.
Yeah.
I am going out on a limb, and I'm saying Patrick Ricard scoring a touchdown this week.
Whoa.
I'm saying Project Pat touchdown. But why he's a player to watch is because I love the way they've been utilizing him this season. It seems to be, they're working in new wrinkles every single week. I think it's going to be I don't want to say the Patrick Ricard game, but a Patrick Ricard game where he has a big play. So that's my bold prediction for this week. Also, Nnamdi Madubuike and the entire Ravens defensive front, if we're being honest, they have Odafe Owe in there as well. Sam, seems like Baltimore's pass rush is certainly taking a step back, especially when you mentioned rushing 4 and them not being able to generate as much pressure that way. John Harbaugh's been very vocal about the secondary and the pass rush being married. Right now, they are divorced. That is something that is going on right now. They're not on the same page. They are both single. Yep. They have to get back on that. Travis Jones, who obviously is dealing with his ankle injury right now, he didn't have a big impact. He looked injured in that game last week. And other guys have to be able to step up. It's why, we're having these conversations about, okay, well, could they go after a pass rusher because they're not getting the job done consistently? And we're kind of talking about a problem they had for many years before last year, Sam, which was they can't generate pressure without blitzing, and that can be a huge problem. So is there anybody else you're looking out for?
I would say maybe Roger Rosengarten, considering that Myles Garrett is probably going to be placed up opposite him. They don't want to pretty much waste his talents on Ronnie Stanley because in some ways it's a stalemate. In some ways, I even give the edge to Stanley. So I think they're going to use Rosengarten a lot in this game. I mean, try and abuse him, I should say, if you're a Browns fan. So I think he's going to have a big game. Daniel Fileta next to him, he's going to need to have a big game because I think they're going to try and attack that right side as the left side has been almost lights out. I mean, Ronnie Stanley's probably the 3rd highest rated tackle in all of football, according to Pro Football Focus. So I think Roger Rosengarten needs to have a good game for this to truly be a blowout. I'm not sure that the Browns have what it takes to win, but I think if they're going to do it, it's going to be because Myles Garrett has a crazy game.
Yeah, and on the other side, they have Zadarius Smith, someone who has been linked to Baltimore, maybe, a Jadeveon Clowney, some old friends possibly, Calais Campbell. Like, again, it's like all these former Ravens. It's like, all right, come on down, come on.
Back.
And for Zadarius Smith, it'd be a go round 2.5 for him after almost signing with the Ravens and then go into Green Bay after that. But leading into final score predictions, Sam, I have 33-16 Ravens over the Browns. I think this will be a game where, again, there is the unknown of Jameis, but I'm going to go with some of his past, which has been he's a high mistake player. I think it's going to be a bounce back for the secondary. And I think this Ravens offense, even though the Browns are a heck of a defense, and I can certainly see them scoring less than 33 for the Ravens, I think they're going to try to make another statement. And Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, by the way, love playing in Cleveland. So that's my score prediction over there, Sam. Appreciate you hopping on. And again, on the way out, please tell people where they can find you and what you're working on and your score prediction if you have one.
All right, yeah. My score prediction is kind of similar to yours. I think the Ravens win 34-10. I don't really have much faith in any team holding this team to under 30 points. I think even the Browns have that familiarity. I still don't think that they're going to have enough to get the job done. And I think the Ravens defense has a bounce back game against Jameis Winston. But thank you for having me once again. You can find me on YouTube at Ravens Talk Podcast. We do a show every week, and we have all 22 analysis after the game to decipher what went right or what went wrong for the Ravens. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Ravens Talk Pod. And also, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think I have anything on social. TikTok. I'm actually doing TikTok now. You can find me on Ravens Talk Podcast on TikTok as well.
Yeah, I gotta get in the TikTok game. I've been trying to grow the Instagram, and I'm like, all right, let's grow one thing, and then we can focus on another thing. So I think TikTok coming in the off season, but Sam's is up now, so be sure to go follow Sam on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and be sure to subscribe over on YouTube. He does great work over on the Ravens Talk Pod. Plus those film breakdowns. He knows what he's talking about. So be sure, again, those links in the description down below. Sam, appreciate you as always. And thank you to everybody who tuned into the show today. Be sure on the way out, hit that like and subscribe button in video form on YouTube. Follow along and subscribe in audio form. As I always say on Fridays, we'll see where the headlines take us to see if we'll do any bonus episodes this weekend, but usually that means we'll have some. So be sure to stay tuned for here on Locked On Ravens. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.